The Boys, as we know, is a show based off its own comic book that satires well-known superhero comics. They create total parodies of Marvel and DC characters, often presenting so-called superheroes as being corrupt and evil and abusing their powers for personal gains. In this video, we'll make comparisons between characters from The Boys and their DC or Marvel counterparts. Part 1. The Avengers. For this section, we'll mostly talk about the comics. Other than the Seven, another well-known superhero group in The Boys is Payback, a team which is a carbon copy of Marvel's Avengers. Especially when you look at the name, Payback means the same thing as avenging. The first member we'll talk about is this guy, Tech Knight, who is already mentioned in the TV series but not shown yet. Is a parody of Iron Man. He's a tech genius with no superpowers and wears a suit of armor that flies around. The next one is a person many of us are familiar with, Stormfront, who is similar to Thor. He's originally a guy but got gender swapped into a female for the TV show. Both Stormfront and Thor have lightning powers and are capable of flight. They live long, Stormfront being over 100 years old in the TV show and Thor being 1,500 years old. Both sort of have European origins, with Stormfront being German and Thor, well, he's an Asgardian alien but based on Norse mythology, so I guess that still counts. Next is this guy, Eagle the Archer, also seen in the TV show. Easily his Avengers counterpart is Hawkeye. Both are archers with names of predatory birds, and they are both self-aware of how ridiculous they are, fighting using a bow and a limited set of arrows. And then there's Mind Droid. Easily he's Vision, what seems like an android with telepathic powers, and even both their colors are the same. Next is Swatto, who can be either Ant-Man or the Wasp, insect-themed superhero character. Last one in the picture is Crimson Countess, who is Scarlet Witch. Both are red, both in their name and colors that they wear. Their powers involve red sparks, and Crimson Countess's name implies a European origin, just like how Scarlet Witch really is from Eastern Europe. And then there's another important member of Payback and Avengers who isn't in that picture, and that's Soldier Boy, who is basically their version of Captain America. At first glance, we see an image of a star-spangled, army-themed hero carrying a shield in both of them. And then there's that World War II connection. While Captain America did serve in World War II, so did the original Soldier Boy, who is the predecessor to this one. So Soldier Boy and Captain America are one of the earliest superheroes of their respective universes, and were the products of an experiment in the form of a blue liquid, Compound V, and the Super Soldier Serum. More on that later. Oh, and there's an interesting fact. Jensen Ackles, the actor who will be playing Soldier Boy in Season 3, actually auditioned for the role of Captain America, but Chris Evans ended up getting that role. Now, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into the Compound V and Super Soldier Serum stuff. They were both created by a genius German scientist who previously worked for the Nazis, but then switched sides to the Allies and ended up in America. But it's not fair to compare these two people, as Erskine was always a good person, unlike Vought, who was an actual evil Nazi. So we're going to make another comparison, putting Vought alongside Arnim Zola. They are both evil Nazis who switched sides to America, and allowed to do so as their research and intellect were deemed too valuable for the USA. But they both secretly continued their works behind the scenes, infiltrating the nation and eventually influencing American policy in an invisible way. Vought did so through corporate work under his company, eventually getting the company's superheroes contracted to work with the military. And Zola, on the other hand, continued to grow Hydra within S.H.I.E.L.D., so that's how they screwed America. Now, let's move to another part of the picture where we get to see how Vought monopolies everything in the universe, including the entertainment industry, and seems to be more powerful than our own world's Marvel or its parent company Disney. Vought has its own Vought cinematic universe, movies that are pretty much like the MCU. I'm not sure about Turbulent Beauty and Mesmerizer there, if they are considered part of the VCU, but I just wanted to put them there. And Vought even pokes fun at the whole female empowerment thing with their Girls Get It Done. Vought also has their own subscription-based streaming service, Vought Plus, much like Disney Plus that features all the Marvel movies and series. And A-Train is set to get his own show on Vought Plus. They also mentioned their own theme park, Vought-Land, which is basically Disneyland. So all of this confirms that Disney is an evil corporation just like Vought. Anytime now they'll be creating real-life superheroes in the real world. Now, all of these VCU movies will culminate together into an ensemble team-up movie, just like what happened with the Avengers, but here we see that it resembles DC's Justice League more. The title of their movie is The Dawn of the Seven, parodying Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, and even the color palette is the same, as you can see. They even mentioned Dawn of the Seven being a Joss Whedon rewrite, just like what happened with the Justice League movie. So for the next part, we'll be focusing more on DC instead of Marvel. So this brings us to part 2, comparisons with the Justice League. This is actually the most obvious one of all. The Seven is the equivalent of the Justice League in a more realistic corporate corrupt way. They both have a high-tech base of operations, a tower of sorts, where inside they have a table where the members sit facing each other, looking high and mighty. So let's compare the members one by one. First is Homelander, who is Superman, the leader and the face of the team, the strongest one, the flying caped guy in patriotic colors. His powers include super strength, durability, laser eyes, X-ray visions. And the X-ray vision has an exception though. Lead for Superman and zinc for Homelander. One of them saves aeroplanes, the other one causes them to crash. People revere them as a savior, as a Jesus-like figure. They both have a superpowered son and is attracted to a normal non-superpowered lady who is actually still powerful in her own way. So that's about it. The next one is Queen Maeve and Wonder Woman. Both of them carry the image of what seems to be like an ancient female warrior with their super strength and combat prowess. Maeve's name only refers to herself as a queen, but Wonder Woman is an actual princess herself. And Maeve's sexual identity might be a nod to Wonder Woman's origins being from a race of all women. The next one is Black Noir and Batman, dressed in black, masked, silent, stealthy and deadly, with a proficiency in martial arts and weaponry, having trained under a master. Both of them ride a motorcycle, but Black Noir actually looks more like Batman's enemy, Deathstroke. And then there's the team's butt of a joke, Aquaman and the Deep, with their full set of aquatic powers, swimming, diving, breathing underwater, communicating with sea creatures. People make fun of them, despite them being actually really powerful. Next is A-Train and the Flash, the speedsters. As a common trope, we see them competing with other speedsters in a race. And there's also that obligatory speedsters thing where they move so fast to the point where everyone else seems to be frozen in place. Moving on, Translucent and Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter has a wide range of abilities, with invisibility being one of them. And in terms of looks, both him and Translucent are not exactly the prettiest ones in the team by normal standards. And the Translucent's actor is also green behind the scenes for visual effect purposes. And Translucent's comic version actually is more similar to Martian Manhunter in terms of looks and name. His name in the comics is Jack from Jupiter, but his powers are different. He can't turn invisible. Next is Green Lantern's counterpart, Lamplighter. They both dress in green and wear masks over their eyes and use a lamp as a power source. The head of Lamplighter's torch even looks like Green Lantern's lantern. In combat, they both create fire or light. But then Lamplighter was replaced with Starlight, who also sort of fits with Green Lantern, as they both attack using light and need to recharge their light-based powers from an energy source. But then again, a closer counterpart in terms of looks for Starlight would be Supergirl, even though their powers are not exactly the same. They are both young, cute, blonde, and even their original costumes look the same, with a cape and skirt. And last of all, another replacement in the team, Stormfront, who we will now compare with Shazam. Both of these supes, whose names start with S, have powers quite similar to Superman or Homelander, super strength and flight, but they also have electrokinesis. They have a laid-back attitude and a strong social media presence. We see Stormfront doing live streaming, and Shazam has his own YouTube account managed by Freddy. And they don't look their age, Stormfront being an actual old lady, while Shazam is a young teenager. And the comics version of Stormfront looks more similar than ever to Shazam. Just look at it. Now for the next part, we're going back to Marvel a bit. We'll talk about the X-Men's equivalent in The Boys. We'll start with the comics first, where they have the G-Men, a direct parody of Marvel's X-Men. The G in G-Men refers to its founder, John Godolkin, who, unlike Professor Charles Xavier, is an evil pedophile who lacks any moral compass, and he doesn't have psychic powers too. And similar to how the X-Men have other mutant-related teams like X-Force, X-Factor, and Excalibur, the G-Men have their own smaller teams like G-Force, G-Style, and G-Wiz. And obviously, at a glance, members of the G-Men are direct copies of the X-Men. 5-0 here is Cyclops, and Hairy Critter here is Beast. Europo is Nightcrawler, he's got the same devil look. Cold Snap, he's Iceman. Nubia is definitely Storm. Flamer is supposed to be Pyro. And Stacker, he's Colossus, obviously. Luckless here is Domino. And Groundhawk is Wolverine with a pair of hammers instead of metal claws. Well, those are the comic book characters, and we are set to get a live-action TV spin-off about the G-Men in the near future. Meanwhile, in the show that we already have, there are many TV-exclusive characters that have similar X-Men-like powers, so let's get into that. Remember Doppelganger, the shape-shifting guy? Well, he's Mystique, of course. It's funny how Doppelganger's real appearance as an overweight, hairy, middle-aged, bald man is clearly subverting Mystique's sexy female appearance. They both operate quite similarly, using their disguise to get close to people in power or politicians to further their agenda. Then we have Popclaw, with claws popping out of her arms. She is just like Wolverine, but since she's a girl, she might be more suited to be X-23's counterpart, the female clone of Wolverine. Then again, Kimiko should be X-23's counterpart, as they both have a violent, feral nature, acting like animals. Then again, Kimiko's X-Men counterpart should be Lady Deathstrike, as they are both Japanese, and in the movie, Deathstrike was also sort of mute, not speaking, so you can just pick for yourself who is supposed to be who. For the role of telepathic mind reader, there's Mesmer, who's just like Professor Charles Xavier. Both are physically weak, and Mesmer seems to be going bald too. Jean Grey, who uses telekinesis, has her powers seen in Cindy and Kenji. And when Jean gets batshit crazy as Dark Phoenix, she obliterates people to pieces just like Cindy. Archangel's white pigeon wings is just like that winged singing super who performed in the Believe Expo. Cyclops is Laser Eye Baby. Both have poor control of their powers, although Cyclops' blasts are more of a concussive force instead of being laser beams. And that African wind guy whom Homelander lasered his guts, he's Storm, who also happens to be from Africa. Lamplighter is Pyro, who manipulates fire but can't create it, so they both carry a lighter everywhere. Naqib's powers are just like Negasonic Teenage Warhead, the power of self-detonation like a bomb without hurting its user. And finally, there's the whole story about inhuman experimentations being done to create superpowered individuals, seen at the Sage Grove Center in The Boys, and in X-Men we see it happening in the Logan movie at the Alkali Transigen Labs. Now, there's still more. There's another Marvel group copied by The Boys, the Fantastic Four. This one has only been shown in the comics so far. There's this team called Fantastico, and all four members can be seen here on the cover of issue 3 of Herogasm, which is a comic spin-off for The Boys. The doofer, made of bricks, is basically the Thing. Richard Dick, horrible name, he's Mr. Fantastic. Invisilass, he's Invisible Girl, and this unnamed fire guy is Human Torch. And before we end, we're just going to throw in some other Boys characters that we've left out with counterparts in Marvel and DC. Here they are.